Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be continuing our series on constructing filters using the Cubro Packet Master line of network packet brokers, and specifically this video is going to address filtering on VLAN criteria using the Web GUI interface. Before we get started with that, I would like to show you this PCAP and a few things about this PCAP because I'll be using this to demonstrate the filters. And what's of note about this PCAP for our purposes here is that it contains packets that have no VLAN information at all, as well as multiple other VLANs such as 5, 32, 104, and 108, as well as some others, but those are the ones we're going to mainly focus on. So just know that whenever I demonstrate a filter, I'm playing this PCAP into the packet broker. All of this traffic is present, and our filter is what's going to affect the output that we get. So that'll hopefully validate the traffic that we would expect to see from our filters. In our previous video, where we were looking at the Web GUI interface of the packet master, we saw the rule table and we also saw this add rule page, and we were constructing some basic forwarding flows or forwarding rules, basically just getting traffic from point A to point B. And in that, we were doing things just like this, in port 1 and out port 4. In this case, port 1 is where I'm playing that PCAP into the packet master, and I'm collecting the traffic coming out port 4, and we're going to look at that in Wireshark. And while I didn't specifically call it out, whenever we were doing this in that previous video, we were actually using one of the filtering options that are associated with VLANs. And this option is set by default, and that's match all traffic, whether it's tagged or untagged. So this is really just saying, regardless of whether there's VLAN information present or not, I want all traffic of that type to come through this rule. So for example, if we apply this rule and we go ahead and we play our PCAP that we just looked at back into our packet broker, we should get an exact copy of that PCAP back because there's no filtering taking place here. So looking at this, we can see that we have all of our non-tagged packets, as well as all of the VLANs that we also looked at, 5, 32, 104, 105. It's an exact copy of the PCAP that we just took a look at. But if we want to start filtering using some VLAN criteria, that drop-down has some other options for us. So clicking on this, we can see that we have the option to match tagged traffic only, or the option to match non-tagged traffic only. We're going to look at the non-tagged traffic first, since that's the simpler of the two. And selecting that, that's really all there is to it. There's no additional options. Applying that rule, what we're saying now is that I only want to see traffic that has no VLAN ID information present, or no VLAN information present at all. If the traffic has some kind of VLAN information, it's going to be ignored by this rule. And since we don't have anything else set up for it, it's basically going to be discarded at the packet broker. So we play this back. Our output shouldn't be very much because there were very few packets that did not have VLAN information assigned to them. And we see here that none of these do. Now these two packets are actually being generated by the NIC on my laptop. These are not relevant to our PCAP, but they snuck in there anyway. But if we do want to start filtering specifically on VLAN traffic, we're going to use that option of matching tagged traffic only. And we see when we select this, we get two more options as well. We get the option to specify VLAN IDs, and we get the option to specify the VLAN PCP, or the VLAN priority level, so we can filter out class of service or prioritized frames using the VLAN PCP option. But let's just take a look at this using just the matching tag traffic only without specifying any further criteria. So playing our PCAP back through, we get a bunch of output this time. And what we should see is that all of our VLANs are present. There's 5, there's 32, there's 104, and there's 108. However, any traffic that did not have a VLAN ID assigned to it is absent. We discarded it at the rule. So now if we want to single out specific VLANs, we can use this option of specifying our VLAN ID. So let's say we want to look at traffic only with a VLAN ID of 5. We just pop our 5 in that field, apply our rule, and take a look at the results. So here we get only our VLAN 5 information. Everything has an ID of 5, nothing else is present. And we can also specify multiple VLANs in a single rule. So much like we specified ports using commas or port ranges, we can do the same thing with VLAN IDs. So we could say VLAN 5, 32 to specify all traffic in VLANs 5 and 32. Apply rule, start our capture, check out the results. Quite a bit more traffic this time. But if we look at this, we can see we have our VLAN 5 and all of the traffic from 32, but of course nothing from 104 or 108 are present, and there shouldn't be any non-tagged traffic present either, except for this DHCP request that snuck in from my NIC before I could turn off the capture. We can also specify a range of VLANs to look at, so I could say something like VLANs 5 through 32. So we would get 5 and 32 and everything in between. We could also do this for 5 through 104. So let's take a look at that quickly. Play back our traffic. So we have 5, 32, 104, not 108, and of course nothing. Sorry about that. I had that field specified improperly. So we have 5, 32, 104, and not 108. And of course nothing over 104. And we would also not have our untagged traffic, and we will have anything else that's in between 5 and 104, such as VLAN 17 is present here as well. Now, I'll point out here that you can actually specify your VLAN ID as a hex value if you so choose. So let me get rid of these rules here so we no longer have those. So matching tag traffic, you can put in a hex value for your VLAN ID by specifying a 0 hex beforehand, and then the hex value of the VLAN ID you're after, such as 104 would be 68. And if we go to the rule table field, we'll see that this just translates that to 104. So when we run this rule, if we were to play that PCAP back, we would have only the traffic from VLAN 104, just like our previous example where we just specified 5. As far as the VLAN PCP goes, I unfortunately don't have a PCAP that has different prioritized VLAN traffic in it. What we could do here, though, is we could specify our class of service. So you can filter on PCP of 0. In my case, this will have no effect from not specifying anything at all because everything is VLAN 0. But if you had other classes of traffic, such as 5, 6, 7 in there, specifying 0 here will return only a PCP value of 0, but not the others. Likewise, I can demonstrate something like PCP of 5, since all of my VLAN traffic is VLAN has a PCP value of 0. If I were to put this rule into effect and we play our PCAP back, I should receive no resulting packets. And we don't, because once again, looking at that PCAP, everything has a priority value of 0 in here. You could also use this in conjunction with your VLAN IDs. So you could say something like, show me everything from VLAN ID 100 with a priority value of 5. What you can't do in the priority values is specify multiples. So we can't say show me 5 and 7, and you wouldn't be able to put a range in there like show me 3 through 7. Those would require creating separate rules. You can specify these as hex values if you so choose, but if you wanted to say filter out VLAN 100 and filter out everything of a priority 5 and 7, you would need one rule first to be your priority 5, create that rule, and then a second rule to specify priority 7 and create that rule. So you would ultimately end up with multiple rules to accomplish that goal. So this guy's old hat, and this is what it would look like on a rule table if we were trying to accomplish that. One more thing to point out about filtering on VLANs with the Packet Master series of packet brokers is that the Packet Masters are limited to filtering on the outer VLAN ID of the traffic. So let me just demonstrate that by showing another PCAP I have here. So in this PCAP, we have double tagged VLAN traffic. This is actually the exact same PCAP that we just looked at previously, except now I've appended an outer VLAN tag of 500 to everything. So for example, the one we have selected here, we have an outer VLAN ID of 500 and an inner VLAN ID of 32. With the Packet Master series, we can only filter on the outermost VLAN ID, that 500. We wouldn't be able to filter on the VLAN ID of 32, and I can demonstrate that quickly. Let me select my double VLAN PCAP. Let's go back in here and let's construct a rule where we filter on VLAN ID 500. This is going to work just fine. So start our capture, play this PCAP back. And since all of these have an outer VLAN ID of 500, we get those as a result of the filter. Of course, we still have our inner VLAN IDs present. Those are part of the traffic, so we see those on the output, but they didn't play any role in the filtering process. And to show you that more definitively, let's say I wanted to try and filter this traffic using a VLAN ID of 32. It's of course present as an inner VLAN ID. However, we won't be able to catch it because it's the inner VLAN ID. I know what I did there. I forgot to delete my rule where I was also filtering on VLAN ID 5, so let's go ahead and get rid of that in this 100, and let's try that one more time. So we can see now filtering only on VLAN 32, we don't get anything from our PCAP back because we can't see that VLAN 32. Now there is a solution to this, and it would require a multi-stage filtering, and this is something that we'll look at when we start to get into modifying our traffic. But just to give you a heads up right now, what we can do here in this case is we can set up a rule to strip our outer VLAN tag. So we would strip that VLAN tag of 500 off, leaving us with only the traffic and its inner VLAN IDs, at which point we can run that back into the Packet Master with a hardware loop and filter on that traffic at that point. Also worth mentioning that our Generation 5 Packet Masters, something that I haven't touched on in these videos, but we'll certainly see in the future, are capable of filtering on both the outer and inner IDs of VLANs, as well as multiple other protocols. But that's really all there is to filtering on VLANs using the web GUI. We pretty much saw all of the options that are available here. Fairly simple and straightforward. In our next video, we're going to be doing the same thing, but we're going to be using the command line interface. So there I'll show you the syntax of the CLI commands to accomplish the same goals. And again, we'll see some of the differences between the CLI and the GUI and how we approach these filtering methods. But until then, take care, everybody. Thanks for watching and have a great day.